If you look up simp in the dictionary, there's just a photo of Moses. He is such a simp for God that he literally stops stripping his wife so that he can have an affair with the Shekhinah. Here's another little misogynistic fact. The Gemara says that even looking at a woman's pinky finger is like looking at her genitals. Major look. Welcome back to And God Was Like, Alma's weekly Torah portion series. I'm your host, Arielle Kaplan. This week, I'm breaking down Parashat Yitro. Yitro, or as I'm going to call him, Jethro, is Moses's daddy-in-law. And this Parashat really isn't about Jethro, but let's just get into it. Chapter 18. Last we heard of Tzipporah was during that wacky bridegroom of blood thing where Tzipporah circumcised her own son. Long midrash short, Moses sends Tzipporah back to Midian with her father while God fucked shit up in Egypt land. As God's intern, Moses's bitch work now mostly consists of sitting on a chair all day waiting for Israelites to come to him so he can judge them. But not like in a fun, passive-aggressive way. He's judging them according to the laws of Torah. This was all background info. The chapter really starts with Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, traveling to the desert with Tzipporah and his two grandsons. Jethro had heard about God's miracles, mass murder, and he was like, all right, this bitch needs to take care of his family now. So they find Moses in the desert, God knows how, like literally only God knows how. They didn't have Google Maps or the clouds of glory. Moses comes out and greets them. He kisses Jethro. They make some small talk about the weather, and he totally ignores Tzipporah because that's right, he's a simp for the Shekhinah. And then Jethro invents the judicial system and bounces. Basically, instead of smacking the shit out of Moses for being a deadbeat dad and withholding sex from his daughter, Jethro devises a plan to relieve some of the burden from Moses so he has more time to spend with his wife and kids. Basically, there would be a lower court that would handle all disputes and all the big shit would go to Moses. I love that Jethro cares so much about his daughter's sexual pleasure, but unfortunately the plan did not work. But 3 cheers for religious democracy. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Chapter 19. 3 months post-Exodus, the Israelites enter the wilderness of Sinai. God tells Moses to tell Beit Israel, actually just the house of Jacob, tell them in Hebrew, and then the women, you can talk to them in Pig Latin or some shit, he doesn't care. If Beit Israel keeps God's covenant, he will make them a kingdom of priests. He goes like all Lord of the Rings, my precious, on Beit Israel, and it's like a little dramatic. Beit Israel pinky swears, but they want to hear it from God's mouth to their ears. So God devises a sort of party. He will come down in a thick cloud of smoke, the Shekhinah, and talk to him. He does have stage fright. He is a little nervous. Beit Israel is cordially invited by Moses on behalf of God to Mount Sinai in 3 days' time. Y'all really need to shower, okay? You look like Pigpen. It's disgusting and truly offensive to me and God. And do not touch a woman. Everybody had to cleanse themselves for God. And if a woman had sex in those 3 days, she runs the chance of semen falling out of her vagina, which would make her unholy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we pee after sex. For God. 3 days later, Moses leads everybody to Mount Sinai, which is a metaphor for a bridegroom walking to meet his bride because Israel's about to marry God. But like, God is already married to Asherah, the Hebrew goddess. If you have any questions, talk to me after class. Chapter 20. And as Beit Israel walks down to meet their bride or groom, I don't remember who's who, God is coming down the mountain, a shofar is blowing, there's an earthquake, there's lightning, shit is fucking intense. God is really nervous the Israelites are going to touch the mountain because if they do, they'll die. And so he's like, Moses, tell them not to touch it. And the Israelites were like, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. And Moses was like, they're not touching it. And then God spoke the 10 words, aka the 10 commandments. You shall have no other God besides me. That's a given. No idolatry. Don't bring me into any of your shady lies, okay? I don't want to be involved. Keep Shabbat. Always honor your parents. Don't murder, because that's my favorite activity. No adultery. And technically that's only for the women, but still. Don't steal, don't lie to your neighbors, and don't be jelly of them either, okay? This whole ceremony scares the socks off of Beit Israel, and they never want to hear God's voice again. And God was like, I told you they would hate me. And Moses was like, once you get to know God, he's really just a little teddy bear inside, and the only reason he's so scary is because he has a fear of abandonment. So you know he's using fear as a tactic to make you never leave. It's working. Thank you so much for tuning in, and tune in next week for more.